The long history of football and the passion that it sparked in millions of fans around the world has created strong and lasting rivalries that have turned simple football games into something more than just a contest for a three-point game. Well, the origins of these rivalries are diverse, although the final result has been very similar, with the nuances that may exist in each country and their own idiosyncrasies. So, we've prepared a list with the most important rivalries in the world of football. Choosing only national rivalries though, only one per country, and considering only those that are at the club level. Which is why we haven't included in this list rivalries such as Brazil-Argentina, Messi-Cristiano, Neymar-Alvaro, or Cuauhtémoc Blanco-Ricardo La Volpe. So, coming in at number 10, AFC Ajax and Feyenoord, the Klassiker. Well, this Dutch rivalry has both a sporting and social origin. From a sporting perspective, both Ajax and Feyenoord are the only Dutch teams to win the World Cup for clubs, and along with PSV Eindhoven, the only teams to win the UEFA Champions League. For years, Ajax and Feyenoord were the best football products of the Netherlands, building up this intense rivalry over the decades. In addition, Ajax and Feyenoord represent also two different social worlds. AFC Ajax is from Amsterdam, of which there's a perception that they are upper-class people, whilst Feyenoord are from Rotterdam, a city that's associated more with the working class. Well, this aspect was crucial to increase this rivalry. Well, the first game between the two clubs was played in 1921, and it was decided as a draw by the Dutch Football Federation, despite the fact that AFC Ajax had won 3-2 after a series of events and problems during the match. In the 1970s or the early 70s, Ernst Happel's Feyenoord, and one of the most underrated football managers of all time, and Rinus Michel's AFC Ajax dominated the football scene of the whole continent of Europe. This was considered the golden age of Dutch football, and the revolution implemented by Rinus Michel with his legendary total football has changed the sport forever. And despite nowadays Ajax and Feyenoord are no longer as successful as they used to be back in the early 70s, this match is strongly felt by all the Dutch football fans. So, number 9, CR Flamengo, Fluminense FC, Fla-Flu. The match that brings together the two most popular football teams of Rio de Janeiro represent the most intense rivalry in the Brazilian football. Flamengo against Fluminense, also referred to as Fla-Flu or the Derby of Rio de Janeiro, is often a great show on the pitch and inside the stadium, where the supporters provide a magical and passionate atmosphere. It's enough to mention that Fla-Flu has the record for the highest attendance at a club game in history. Now, the record took place on December 15th, 1963, when 194,603 attendees went to witness the 0-0 draw between the two giants from Rio at the legendary Maracana Stadium. The rivalry started at the beginning of the last century, when, following a disagreement with the club's board, 10 Fluminense FC players decided to leave the institution to join their neighbours CR Flamengo. And since then, the rivalry has been particularly intense, also thanks to the fact that football is by far the most popular sport in Brazil. So, number 8, Club Nacional and CA Peñarol, Uruguayan Superclásico. Well, Club Nacional and CA Peñarol is the oldest rivalry in football outside the UK. If we also consider that Uruguay is known for the strong character of its people, reflected often in the way they play football, this match is a sort of football war. Other than the ordinary sporting rivalry, there's another reason why the two sides dislike each other so deeply. CA Peñarol, originally called CURCC, the Central Uruguay Railway Cricket Club, was born as a multidisciplinary institution of an English company, where British and foreigners were free to play. In response to Peñarol, the national club was established by Uruguayan students, whose slogan was that foreigners were not accepted. As a result, as we've seen between Ajax and Feyenoord, the rivalry goes beyond football, and it has roots in society itself. Also, both clubs are from the city of Montevideo, where the majority of the country's population and most of the football clubs are concentrated, which of course increases the intensity of that rivalry. Club Nacional and CA Peñarol share around 90% of the local championships in Uruguay. Therefore, this derby does not only determine the king of Montevideo, but often whoever wins this match is the king of the entire nation. So, number 7, Manchester United FC and Liverpool FC, the Northwest Derby. Throughout the history of English football, many clubs have had their periods of success. And just to mention a few examples, we've seen successful periods for Chelsea, Nottingham Forest and more recently Manchester City. However, historically the most winning teams are, without a doubt, Manchester United Football Club and Liverpool Football Club. And this is only one of the many aspects in relation to the rivalry between the Reds and the Red Devils. And once again, the main reason actually dates back through history. At the end of the 19th century, one of the most important markets in the UK was that of cotton, and Manchester and Liverpool were the most important cities for that industry, the cotton industry. Now, originally, all imported raw materials passed through the port of Liverpool and then arrived in Manchester. In 1894, the Manchester Ship Canal was opened, allowing ships to reach Manchester bypassing the city of Liverpool, and as a result, those involved in the transportation did not have to pay tariffs to Liverpool anymore, and that created widespread unemployment amongst the citizens of Liverpool, as well as having adverse major impacts on the Merseyside city's economy. It was catastrophic at the time. So, a rivalry between the two cities started from there, and soon enough this competition between the two cities expanded into football, creating the biggest and most intense rivalry in the English football scene. Back in the 1960s, Manchester United, with Matt Busby and Bill Shankly's Liverpool FC, were then the best teams in England. And this was increasing that rivalry, along with many other events in matches between the two clubs, such as the 1996 FA Cup final, the one of the Spice Boys against the class of '92, or the incident between Luis Suarez and Patrice Evra. In at number 6, Celtic FC, Rangers FC, the old firm. Celtic and Rangers represent the biggest rivalry in the Scottish football scene. The Scottish Premiership has been dominated from almost its inception by these two giants, who've shared almost 85% of the national titles of professional football in Scotland. The origin of the feud between Celtic and Rangers actually has a religious and political background. Celtic is related to the Catholic community of the country and to the Irish Republicans. In fact, several of the club's slogans, such as songs or symbols, have an Irish origin. And for its part, Rangers is a team who used to have the majority of supporters as Protestants and Loyalists. And funnily enough, Rangers, founded in 1872 before Celtic in 1887, actually didn't have an ideological position. However, from the founding of the Catholic team with very strong ideas, Rangers began by defining itself as a representative of the opposite to Celtic. And of course, this rivalry is still in existence nowadays, despite it's much more focused only on football and certainly more relaxed than what it used to be in the past. Number 5, FC Inter Milan and AC Milan, Derby della Madonnina. The derby that gets its name from the Madonnina, the statue of the Virgin Mary that stands at the top of Milan's cathedral, and is currently marked by the greatness of both clubs who've had enormous success in Italy and internationally. Milan is also the only city in Europe that can boast of having 2 UEFA Champions League winner football clubs. Well, the origin of this rivalry started a long time ago, and it's associated with the birth of Inter Milan. AC Milan was born in 1899 thanks to a group of Englishmen who were bringing football to Italy. In 1908, AC Milan's board decided to prohibit the presence of foreign players inside the team. Nazionale, also known as Inter Milan, or simply Inter. FC Inter Milan was born and also began one of the strongest rivalries in Italy and of course in Europe. In the 1960s, the derby had one of its best times when Sandro Mazzola's FC Inter Milan faced Gianni Rivera's AC Milan, in a decade where, in addition to dominating Italy, both also established themselves in Europe, winning 3 consecutive Champions Cup, then the UEFA Champions League. Those who love football and passion at its best should absolutely attend the derby in Milan at least once in their lifetime. It's quite an experience. In at number 4, Real Madrid CF FC Barcelona, El Clásico. Real Madrid CF FC Barcelona is undoubtedly the most important rivalry in the history of world football, as they are two of the most spectacular and deeply rooted teams on the planet. El Clásico is usually a show in the show when top football superstars face each other, like recently Messi against Cristiano Ronaldo, Piqué and Sergio Ramos, Benzema and Luis Suarez. Such an impressive match. The rivalry gained importance when both clubs became interested in the signing of Argentine Alfredo Di Stefano from Millonarios FC of Colombia. In the end, after lots and lots of legal disputes, Alfredo Di Stefano, one of the greatest football players ever, signed up with Real Madrid CF. And until today, Di Stefano, arguably the greatest football player in the history of Real Madrid, brought to Bernabeu 5 UEFA Champions Leagues in a row. And this was the initial spark which created the strongest and deepest rivalry in Spanish football. Way more than the rivalry between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. Another event that further increased what was already an enormous rivalry was the signing of Luis Figo, star of Barcelona, to Real Madrid in 2000, when Florentino Perez began his first period as president of the club, shaping up one of the strongest teams ever, Los Galacticos. In the last decade, El Clásico has reached a new level that no other rivalry in football has achieved, thanks to the competition between Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi to be the best player in the world, and in particular during the period when managers Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola trained the Madrid and Catalan teams respectively. Now this is another match that a true football fan would dream to go and watch, either at the Camp Nou or at the Bernabeu. And despite the rivalry between Real Madrid and Barcelona and the levels that it can reach, it can indeed reach those incredible peaks. The next 3 derbies are something out of this world, definitely dangerous, but with an unbelievable atmosphere. So starting with 3rd place Olympiacos FC and Panathinaikos FC, derby of the eternal enemies. Olympiacos versus Panathinaikos, a match that's always synonymous with danger due to the incidents that can occur in or around the stadium. In Greece, Olympiacos and Panathinaikos also extends to other sports such as basketball or even volleyball, so the number of matches between the two sides in one year is higher than of course in other cities. In addition, there's a social component similar to that we've seen in Ajax and Feyenoord. In this case, Panathinaikos is considered the club of the rich and Olympiacos that of the working class. And on top of this, the rivalry has grown due to the constant clashes for the National League, as both are the main winners of the domestic competition that's played in Greece every year. Now, the deployment of police around the stadium during each match is actually similar to a civil war. That's just how big it becomes. Unfortunately, incidents with several injured players are actually commonplace, and the passion of the fans within the stadium is just what it can only be described as awesome. And in at number 2, Galatasaray SK, Fenerbahce SK, Kitalararasi Derby. And the second spot of this top 10 goes to the Istanbul Derby between Galatasaray and Fenerbahce. And this is arguably the most dangerous match in the world. The percentage of incidents, brawls and just outright fighting is almost 100% every time these two Turkish teams face each other in Istanbul. And although both teams are in the same city of Istanbul, Galatasaray is located in the European part of the city, whilst Fenerbahce is in the Asian part. And this is why this derby is called Kitalararasi Derby, which means Intercontinental Derby. And it's the only case of a derby in the world where both clubs are from the same city, but actually from different continents. In 1996, during the final of the Turkish Cup at Galatasaray Stadium, won by Galatasaray in the extra time, the English manager Graham Souness, in a clear provocation to rival fans, placed the flag of Galatasaray in the middle of the pitch of his eternal rival. And this caused so many incidents both inside and outside the stadium. Although Galatasaray have been more successful at a national level, Fenerbahce still holds advantage in matches between the two football teams. And despite being in the second position of this top 10 compilation, we don't really advise our fans to go and attend such a match as this, which is often, unfortunately, synonymous with some pretty nasty incidents. On the contrary, We truly recommend each and every football enthusiast to be a part of the most intense football rivalry match of all. In at number 1, CA Boca Juniors and CA River Plate, Argentinian Superclásico. Boca River is more than a match. It's football passion in its purest form. The clubs were born at the beginning of the 20th century from the enormous immigration that Argentina experienced back then, and that allowed some Englishmen to start bringing their sport, football, to the country, and more specifically to a neighbourhood in Buenos Aires called La Boca. And in this case, the closeness of both clubs, whose fans grew throughout Buenos Aires, and which over time, and thanks to the titles, spread throughout Argentina. Well, originally, the rivalry was purely sporting and based on respect. However, with the passage of time and the changes in Argentine society itself, it became a more aggressive derby, both inside and outside the stadium, where riots have unfortunately become more common. Now, the rivalry has grown in such a way that it's currently recognised worldwide by any football fan. And each time each of these matches is played, there are millions of spectators from all over the planet tuned in. And one of the most iconic episodes of this rivalry occurred recently in 2018, during the final of the CONMEBOL Copa Libertadores, where both teams faced each other at the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium in Madrid, due to disturbances and problems that occurred when the second leg was to be played, being the first final in the history of the tournament to be played outside the American continent. Well, the first leg of the final was a 2-2 draw at La Bombonera, CA Boca Juniors Stadium. The second leg was CA River Plate's 3-1 victory in overtime, in one of the most dramatic matches in recent times. And despite the incredible tension and the high risk of riots, attending River Plate against Boca Juniors match, either at the Monumental or La Bombonera, is a dream of every football enthusiast. That would be pure poetry for a football fanatic. Finally, we wish to all of you to be able to attend at least one of these insane football matches. So that's it. More highlights videos and other sports topics videos will be uploaded soon, so please do stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe. Cheers, we'll see you next time.